Chapter 1851, How did you think? This time was different. When Zai Sheng heard that she was worried about Jiajia, he even went along with her to take a look. The Chiao family's situation was a mess, but the Wei family's situation was no better. There was a scandal in the Chiao family. Wei Da had Wei Xiaomei, a sister who gave birth out of wedlock, and Wei Wei, a fatherless nephew. So what if the Chiao family had a scandal? This wasn't caused by Chiao Nan, and the scandal had nothing to do with Chiao Nan. Wei Da blushed. What do you mean by this? Are you looking down at our Wei family and think that our Wei family can't be compared to your Zai family? Do you find that our Wei family has been giving your Zai family trouble? Zai Hua, do you have a conscience? Are you insane? I'm your husband. To you, Chiao Nan is just a stranger. For a stranger, you're saying bad things about your in-law family? We are celebrating the new year soon. Zai Hua, don't think that I'll be afraid if you return to the Zai family. You want to fight, hey? Do you think you have a lot of backing if you return to your own family? I have backing all along. Zai Hua laughed coldly. Not admitting that the Wei family is troublesome? Sure. This means that I don't have to say anything to my dad and Zai Sheng for your matters, right? You can settle them on your own? That's pretty good, then. Indeed, the Wei family is not troublesome. As for Chiao Nan, although my relationship with her isn't deep yet, she will have to call me sister not too long later. You. If it was said that Zai Hua had a lot of confidence and backing, then Wei Da was obviously lacking in these aspects. It was impossible for him not to find his father-in-law and brother-in-law for help. If the two of them didn't help him, the coming promotion would be none of his business. Hua Hua, it's such a good day today. Can we not fight? Husband and wife should be of one mind. As long as the two of us are good together, I believe there's nothing we can't do. Everything I've worked hard for is for the both of us. It's to prove that your choice back then wasn't wrong, and it's also for Jiajia's future. At this time, aside from displaying weakness, there was nothing else Wei Da could do. The more Wei Da did this, the more he hated Zai Hua in his heart. He felt that Zai Hua was useless except for her background. She couldn't even be compared to Wei Xiaomei as she had no virtues of a traditional Chinese woman. In ancient times, people abided by the 3 obedience and the 4 virtues. He felt that this was still a necessity now. Look at how considerate Wei Xiaomei was. She knew that for his future, she had to take on the blame of giving birth to a son out of wedlock. She obviously knew that Xiao Wei hated her because of this situation. However, Xiaomei never told Wei Wei that he was actually his father. Wei Xiaomei had suffered so many grievances because of him, but she never uttered a word. On the contrary, ever since Zai Hua married him, she had never been good to him wholeheartedly. Based on the position Zai Hua held in the Zai family, would he still not be promoted to deputy battalion commander today if she was really dedicated to him? He should have long fulfilled his lifelong dream of being a regiment commander. He really felt that he was very unlucky to have a wife who wasn't of one mind with him. If Zai Hua wasn't the Zai family's daughter, how would he have married Zai Hua? A woman who wasn't feminine and considerate? Even Wei Xiaomei was more attractive than Zai Hua. Wei Da was still looking fierce just now. However, upon the mention of promotion to deputy battalion commander, he immediately admitted defeat and apologized. How could he stay angry? The more Wei Da was like this, the more disappointed Zai Hua felt in her heart. She wasn't blind. How could she not see the dissatisfaction and anger in Wei Da's eyes? Wei Da didn't feel that he did anything wrong. He was strict with others and lenient toward oneself. In his opinion, the Wei family's matters weren't troubles. Those were their own family matters, and she had to try her best to resolve them without any disdain. The rest was just a bunch of poor and pathetic people here to take advantage of their family. Wei Da looked down on these people, thinking that these people couldn't be compared to the Wei family. When did the Wei family become so high and almighty? Why didn't she know about it? He didn't feel that he was in the wrong but admitted his wrong to her. Besides, it wasn't because of his feelings for her. Words could no longer describe the disappointment in Zaihua's heart. Forget it. Some things shouldn't be said but done. Where are you going? Seeing that Zaihua was leaving, Weida hurriedly pulled her back. Both of us are in a bad mood today. You're right. This is the Zai family, my own family. Upon returning to my own territory, I do have a lot of backing. Furthermore, the Zai family is big. There are plenty of rooms. This conversation isn't pleasant at all. Seeing that you're irritated, I need to calm down. Let's sleep separately today. Zaihua curled her lips and mocked herself with the last sentence. Sleep separately? When Weida was in the army, she was usually at home with her daughter. The chances of the couple sleeping together on the same bed in a year were very slim. Only then did Zaihua understand why her mom used to chase after her dad when she was young. At that time, the Zai family already had conditions. There were both elders and children in the family. She couldn't join the army. Her mom didn't need to be in the army anymore. Her dad didn't spend a lot of time in the army but had a lot of business trips. If her mom didn't take more initiative, it wouldn't matter much whether her dad still had to stay in the army or fly around for business trips. In the end, her mom wouldn't be able to spend much time interacting with her dad. As such, her mom could only take more initiative. You win some, and you lose some. Her mom managed to interact more with her dad, but she naturally had to sacrifice the time spent with her children. This caused her relationship with Zai Sheng and the rest not to be as harmonious as how it should have been. She was in the same predicament. She spent less time interacting with Weida but had gotten close to her daughter. Thus, she had long lost the feeling she had for Weida back then. Similarly, Weida was getting more impatient with her. Only when he needed her help would his tone become softer. Zaihua knew everything in her heart clearly. If you do this, what would your parents think of me? What would brother-in-law think of me? They would think that I've mistreated you and that our relationship isn't close. The Zai family didn't like him to begin with. If the Zai family misunderstood that he didn't have a close relationship with Zaihua, it would be considered good if he could still retain the position of a company commander, let alone a deputy battalion commander. Picking up her clothes, Zaihua glanced at Weida. They don't have to think. Do you think we share a close relationship? Of course. Like what his mother had said, nobody would want a woman like Zaihua. He was the only good-hearted one who was willing to accept her. In the Wei family, Zaihua had the final say. If Zaihua wanted to buy a house, they would buy a house. If Zaihua said to leave the house in Jiajia's name, he had no objections and even took the initiative to support Zaihua. It was his Wei family, but Zaihua always had the final say. Chapter 1852, No Room for Discussion. Zaihua was already so smug and arrogant in the Wei family. Whose daughter-in-law could be as cocky as Zaihua? And she dared to say that he did not treat her well enough? It was best to be content with what she had and know how to reciprocate. He treated Zaihua so well and yet, Zaihua said that their relationship was not good? Had her conscience been eaten by dogs? Zaihua rebuked without thinking. You must be dreaming. I don't even want to talk about whatever your Wei family has done. Weida, it's best to have some self-awareness. I bet you've forgotten all those anniversary dates now that we're married. Do you remember how you promised to spend my first birthday after marriage with me? But after we got married, your promise became a piece of crap, didn't it? The most ridiculous thing was that she had been so moved by Weida's crap talk that while everyone had objected to her marriage, she had stubbornly insisted on marrying Weida. In the end, this was what she received in return. That's different. Those were words he used just to pacify Zaihua so that she would agree to marry him. Now that Zaihua was already married to him and they even had a child together, there was no need for such things. Since he had been able to capture his prey with just one sentence, there was no longer the need to put on a pretense. Except for your person and your heart that are different, there's nothing else that's different. This time, when Zihua wanted to leave, Weida could not stop her because he had no grounds for doing so. If Zihua wanted to be petty about it, Weida did feel rather guilty about it, even though he felt that those words that he had used to coax Zihua before marriage no longer counted. The Wei family remembered what he had told Zihua before marriage. He did not have a good family background, and the Wei family did not have a high status or position. If they were to compare these qualifications, he would never be able to surpass Zihua. But if he were to get together with Zihua, he would definitely treat her well. He could not help it in other areas, but as long as it was within his control, he would do his best to give Zihua a blissful life. He would never forget their anniversary dates and would let Zihua be happy for the rest of her life. After marriage, however, Weida fulfilled not a single thing in that list. Thinking back to Weida's earlier declaration, everything made sense. Yes, the Wei family was not in a good place and he could not match up to her, but she had married him anyway. Since she was already his, there was no need to cajole her. Did she really think he would treat her like a princess? She should learn how to be a daughter-in-law. In this way, Zihua's only reason for choosing Weida was no longer valid. Thus, her choice at that time had become a joke. And now, Weida was even talking about their feelings for each other and their bond as a couple. What a joke! Now that they were at the Zai family's house, there was no way that Zai Yaowai and Miaojing would not know about their daughter sleeping in a different room, separated from their son-in-law. Hearing that her daughter was now sleeping in the room beside her granddaughters, Miaojing's heart ached. Old Zai, why did Hua make such a big fuss at that time? Didn't we tell her about what would happen? But she refused to listen no matter what we said. I really. Now, she was suffering because she had failed to take the advice of her elders. Facts proved that they had not made a wrong judgment about Weida. It was true that he would not be the one to bring Hua happiness. But what she had not expected was that her daughter would act as though she had been bewitched, thinking that Weida was the best in every possible way and that he would be the one to bring her happiness. No matter how much she disapproved of the marriage, Miaojing would have been happy as long as her daughter and granddaughter led blissful lives, even if that meant losing a little face. But as her suspicions were proven to be true one by one, Miaojing was not the least bit happy. In fact, she was so infuriated that she might faint from anger. Her daughter had distanced herself from her family and had even gotten into a huge fight with Zai Sheng over someone like that. It was not worth it at all. All right. Jia is all grown up. There's no point in saying such things anymore. Weida might have 100 or 1,000 bad things about him, but there's one good thing. It's because of him that we have Jia. Jia is different from Weida. I think it's because she has the blood of the Zai family that she's more like a child of the Zai family. Zai Yaowai was much more rational and was unwilling to be caught up in the past. All he wanted was to look to the future. I don't think Weida decided to bring Zihua and Jia here because of his conscience. My bet is that he wants our help in something. I remember that he's been in this company commander position for quite a long time. Given his ambition, he must want to be promoted. His son-in-law was incapable and unable to suffer through hardship. Without any performance worthy of praise within the military, he still wanted to get promoted. Given Weida's performance at the annual review, there was no way Weida would ever get promoted. On the other hand, his name might appear on the list of soldiers to be demoted. It was probably his status as the Zai family's son-in-law that had allowed him to keep his position as a company commander. He was relying on the Zai family's name to hold on to that position of a company commander. Zai Yaowai could not understand how someone like that had the cheek to demand a promotion. Did he think that he deserved it just because he was a son-in-law of the Zai family? If that was the case, he would much rather disown his daughter, Zihua, than let Weida flaunt his identity as the Zai family's son-in-law. That would only ruin the discipline and culture of the military. You definitely cannot agree to that. There's no room for discussion. Miaojing disagreed too. At that time, Miaojing had not been able to convince her daughter otherwise, and her daughter had gotten married to Wei Dai. But the situation was different now. In the past, her daughter had the greatest say, and that was why she had not been able to change anything and could only watch on helplessly as her daughter married Wei Dai. Now, it was Wei Dai asking the Zai family for a favor. As such, they would call the shots. No matter what, she would never let Wei Dai have his way this time. If Wei Dai really got what he wanted, she might never have the chance to meet her granddaughter, Jiajia, again. In fact, she would only hear more about Wei Wei, that child who had nothing to do with the Zai family at all. One could only imagine how Miaojing felt about having such a disgusting son-in-law. Sister Qiao, take a look at this. Is there anything I should take note of? Are these dishes enough? Shall I make more? Xiao Zhao was busy in the kitchen. Xiao Zhao had always thought that Zai Sheng did not have a big appetite. Even if there were guests at home, she thought that she would just have to increase the portion sizes by a little. But when she was about to cook the rice, Qiao Nan instructed her to double the portion sizes. Upon hearing what Qiao Nan asked for, Xiao Zhao was shocked. She thought that there were more guests coming. Qiao Nan did not give an explanation and simply asked Xiao Zhao to prepare the dishes as instructed. Chapter 1853, Settling Accounts. Qiao Nan said that it was fine to have too much rice, but it would reflect badly on Xiao Zhao if she made too little and had to make it again. If the Zai family got upset that there was too much rice, Qiao Nan assured Xiao Zhao that she would take the blame. Since Qiao Nan said that, Xiao Zhao could only follow Qiao Nan's instructions and double the amount of rice. Afterward, Xiao Zhao simply helped Qiao Nan as she cooked, and of course, Qiao Nan was only in charge of cooking. I think that won't be necessary. This looks about right. Qiao Nan breathed a sigh of relief as she rubbed her aching wrist. The Zai family had finally gotten together for a reunion after a long time. Although they did not show it on their faces, they were probably all in a good mood. Because they were in a good mood, their appetites would probably increase as well. At this moment, Qiao Nan felt less lost and more confident. She knew that her dream had not only been a dream. Perhaps the heavens had given her another chance to lead a blissful life to make up for all the pain and hurt she had suffered in the past. Xiao Zhao nodded. Of course it was enough. It would be New Year's Eve only the following night, but they seemed to have prepared even more than what Xiao Zhao prepared for her family's reunion dinner. If this was not enough, she would not know what to do. I'll bring them out then. Okay. I'll go wash my hands first. Sister Qiao, you should take a rest first. I only helped wash and cut the vegetables. You were the one who cooked this whole meal. Actually, I can bring the dishes out alone. If I really can't handle it, I'll ask Xiao Su to help me out. Knowing that Qiao Nan was in a different position to the Zai family, Xiao Zhao did not dare to look at Qiao Nan as if they were of the same rank. Xiao Zhao thought about it carefully and felt that Qiao Nan had acted no differently from how a family's mistress would act. Xiao Zhao thought that building a good relationship and getting on Qiao Nan's good side was extremely crucial. All right. Qiao Nan agreed without much thought. She had indeed taken over much of Xiao Zhao's job. If she were to argue with Xiao Zhao over bringing out the dishes, she would be putting Xiao Zhao in a tight spot. It was only because she had been used to cooking for the Zai family in her dream that she had not been able to resist the urge to do so today. Since Qiao Nan had decided to leave everything else to Xiao Zhao, she decided to return to her room to get a change of clothes instead of simply washing her hands. Otherwise, she would feel uncomfortable with the smoky smell on her clothes. But the moment Qiao Nan stepped out of the kitchen, she bumped into Wei Dai, whose expression was cold and haughty. Oh, you've put in quite a lot of effort to please the Zai family. You're so hard-working that you've taken over all of the caretaker's job. I'm telling you, don't think that you'll be able to have a relationship with the Zai family just because you've made a meal for them. You're on a different level from us. Don't even think about it. This table full of dishes means nothing. Even if you make a whole banquet's worth of food, we'll just pay you some money at the very most. Zai Sheng's intelligence had regressed with age. How could he have found such a cheap thing like Xiao Nan? Wei De's head hurt because of that. The only thing he could do to help the Zai family now was to chase this troublemaker, Xiao Nan, away while the whole Zai family was being so irrational. He was the Zai family's son-in-law, after all, and his interests were closely tied to the Zai family. I don't want to say nasty things, but we should all have some self-awareness. As long as you're willing to leave and never meet the Zai family again, I'll consider any requests that you make. Wei De was not so self-absorbed to think that Xiao Nan, who harbored ill intentions, would know to retreat because of his words. He understood people like Xiao Nan the best. Only the mention of benefits would be able to chase them away. The talk of status was useless. Ordinary people might very well have been frightened by Wei De. After all, she was an outsider, while Wei De was the Zai family's son-in-law. Unfortunately for Wei De, the person whom he had bumped into was no ordinary person. He had bumped into Xiao Nan. It would be even stranger if Xiao Nan would be scared by Wei De's words. Is that so? You say such things so smoothly, but didn't other people tell you the same thing in the past? What do you mean? Wei De immediately flipped. What he hated most was other people commenting about how he had only managed to rise through the ranks because of his marriage to Zai Hua. He was even more so unwilling to recall the anger and shame he had felt in the past when everyone had looked down on him while he was still a measly soldier. People who humiliate others have been humiliated themselves. Wei De, you should know very well how the Wei family started and how you were able to progress in your career. I'm not as gullible and ignorant as you think. You know very well what you've done. You're someone with chinks in your armor that people can seize upon. You don't live your life honestly, and neither do you treat your wife and child well, yet you still dare to threaten others. You're really too much. And don't repeat what other people said to you in the past to me. I'm not you. Besides, don't you feel like you're being slapped in the face when you repeat what other people said to get you to back down? Why does it seem like your face is all swollen? Xiao Nan was unsure about whether someone had really said something like that to Wei De in this life, but she was sure that someone would definitely have such thoughts toward Wei De. Arguing on the basis of their families alone, Wei De was almost on equal grounds with her. Neither of them could look down on the other. More importantly, Wei De had indeed married sister Zai Hua, while she had no such intentions toward Zai Sheng. Even if she knew that her dream had not been entirely fictional and could very well have been an alternative reality, she had never once seen herself as Zai Sheng's wife or even his future wife. But in the face of such a shameless man like Wei De, and thinking about how pitifully Jia had cried, Xiao Nan felt that she would be letting the heavens down for having such a miraculous experience without doing something about it. In her dream, she had not known anything and had exposed the truth of Wei Wei being Wei De's biological son, and his sister being his ex-wife all the same. Since she had done so once, she did not believe that she would not be able to do it again. But there was no hurry. She would take her time in doing so. After all, Wei De was sly and cunning and had managed to hide the truth from the Zai family for more than a decade, successfully married Zai Hua, and even had a daughter like Jia. Wei De stared down at Xiao Nan and he raised his fist as though he was about to punch Xiao Nan. It could be said that Xiao Nan's words had hit Wei De exactly in the areas where it hurt the most, enraging Wei De. Wei De was a little flustered. Xiao Nan was clearly an outsider, but she knew the Zai family's situation like the back of her hand. She even knew about the situation between him and Zai Hua. Wei De could not help but wonder who had told Xiao Nan about the Wei family's background and what had happened between him and Zai Hua in the past. If Zai Sheng had been the one to spill the beans, who would he find to settle the accounts? Chapter 1854, For Your Good. Besides, was Zai Sheng doing this to remind Xiao Nan, or was he using Xiao Nan to warn him? What Weida was most concerned about was that Zai Sheng had told Xiao Nan such a secret. Did that not mean that Zai Sheng was already certain that he was going to marry Xiao Nan? Weida had not forgotten how he had managed to marry Zai Hua and even felt proud of that. The Zai family had not been able to prevent Zai Hua from getting married to him. Similarly, the Zai family would not be able to prevent Zai Sheng from marrying Xiao Nan either. What angered him the most was how his parents-in-law did not acknowledge him but seemed to be friendly toward Xiao Nan as though they had already accepted her. In that case, Xiao Nan would become the chief's wife. If she was nice and polite, she would address him as her brother-in-law. If she was nasty and unkind, he would have to address that ex-caretaker of the Zai family as the chief's wife. No, that could never happen. What are you doing? Xiao Su, who was bringing the dishes out, had just happened to witness this scene and rushed up to stop Weida's fist. I'm warning you that this is the chief's house. If you dare to do anything to the chief's wife, if you dare to touch Sister Qiao, I won't let you off. So what if he was the old chief's son-in-law? He had never heard the old chief or the chief talk about Weida before. He was a company commander but could not even defeat a soldier and could only fight against weak women. No wonder the chief had never mentioned having such a brother-in-law. If he was in their section, he would never have the chance to even be a soldier, let alone a company commander. Who are you? This is none of your business. Let me go. Weida wanted to beat Xiao Su up as well. The problem was that he was not as skilled in martial arts as Xiao Su, and neither would he be able to beat Xiao Su in terms of strength. He was only slightly older than Xiao Su. As such, the frustrated Weida was helpless and could only ask Xiao Su to let go of him. Do you believe that I'll be able to kick you out tomorrow? No, Xiao Su had not even gotten the chance to answer him before Zai Sheng, who had just come down for dinner, replied to him. Xiao Su was sent here to take care of me. Who are you to tell him to scram? Do you have direct connections with the central government? Since when did you have such an ability? Shall I lend you my phone for you to make a call so that Xiao Su will scram? Zai Sheng, I'm your brother-in-law. We're a family. How could you treat your brother-in-law like that in front of outsiders? Weida was infuriated, especially because Xiao Nan and Xiao Su were present. Weida's self-esteem did not allow him to grovel in front of Zai Sheng. He thought only about his status as Zai Sheng's elder brother-in-law and that Zai Sheng should respect and obey him. He was Zai Sheng's elder brother-in-law and was older than Zai Sheng. It was only right for Zai Sheng to listen to him. Standing next to Xiao Nan, Zai Sheng asked, "Are you all right?" Seeing Xiao Nan shake her head and upon confirming that Xiao Nan had indeed not suffered any injuries, Zai Sheng finally replied to Weida. "Company Commander Wei, when have I ever acknowledged you as my brother-in-law? And since when have you ever been part of the Zai family?" He should stop trying to praise himself so blatantly. The moment Zai Sheng appeared, he immediately went to check on Xiao Nan, completely ignoring Weida. This was enough to disgrace Weida, who had acted all high and mighty as a brother-in-law. Zai Sheng's words that followed utterly humiliated Weida. It was as though someone had put his face on the ground and had trampled all over it. This was an awkward situation. Weida had wanted to prove to Xiao Su and Xiao Nan that he was the one who had close connections to the Zai family. But instead, in Zai Sheng's eyes, Xiao Su and Xiao Nan were both people whom he had to protect. On the other hand, Zai Sheng had not taken Weida, who was his brother-in-law, into consideration at all, and had embarrassed him in front of everyone. My parents are in Qingshui town, and since Zai Hua isn't a soldier anymore, she should spend more time with my parents. After the new year, you can leave if you need to. Zai Hua and Jiajia can stay behind with my parents. As for Jiajia's schooling matters, you don't have to worry about it. Anyway, Zai Hua has been the only one worrying about it all this time. Given our qualifications, you can rest assured that we'll develop and nurture Jiajia better than you can ever do so that she can inherit whatever you have, and even surpass you. Zai Sheng was hinting to Wei that his dream of becoming a regiment commander would eventually be fulfilled by his daughter, Jia, as long as she was willing to do so. In another 30 years' time, he would personally see Jia rise to that position. It was just as well for his daughter to fulfill her father's unfulfilled dreams. In the past, he had been too easy on Wei De. That was why Wei De had developed an attitude, thinking that his relationship with the Zai family would never change and that he would rise through the ranks because of such a relationship after he married Zai Hua and had Jia. Wei De's face paled. Wei De had only seen Zai Sheng having such a resolute and strong attitude once in his life. That was when he wanted to marry Zai Hua. At that time, Zai Hua had expressed her wish to marry him in front of the Zai family for the first time, and naturally, that had been the first time he had appeared in front of the Zai family as Zai Hua's boyfriend. At almost the same time, the Zai family not only had to accept Wei De as Zai Hua's boyfriend but also that he would become Zai Hua's husband. At that time, Zai Sheng's attitude had been just as firm and resolute as it was now. There had been no room for any discussion. What was different was that Wei De had been less worried and afraid at that time because Zai Hua had always been on his side. But today, he lacked Zai Hua's support. In front of Zai Sheng, Zai Hua's support was almost the key to winning. Wei De took a deep breath. He always knew that he would only be Zai Sheng's brother-in-law when Zai Sheng wanted to treat him politely. Otherwise, he had no right to act like a brother-in-law in front of Zai Sheng. Zai Sheng, I've been married to your sister for so many years. You should know how I treat her and how hard I've tried to give her happiness. As your relative and brother-in-law, you must believe that whatever I'm doing is for your good. If he had not remembered how Zai Sheng was only a few years younger than he was and was already past the stage of impulsiveness, he would really want to scold Zai Sheng for being so confused and blinded by love. He must have lost all rationality to want someone like Jiao Nan. If Zai Sheng had found a 25-year-old young lady to get married to, Wei De would not be so disapproving, even if that young lady's family background was not as illustrious as the Zai family's. They were both men, but he could not understand Zai Sheng's mindset. He had thrown aside 25-year-old young ladies for an old lady of 40. After Zai Sheng had gotten divorced from Chu Chenxai, he had not taken any action for a long time. Because of that, he had thought that Zai Sheng had very high standards. Wei De had even wondered about what would happen if Zai Sheng decided to remain single and childless for the rest of his life. Would the Zai family's line end in Zai Sheng's hands? Chapter 1855, Yes, they are both mine. Jia was the only child of the Zai family. However, she was a female. If he performed well, he might be able to place Wei Wei by the Zai family's side. As time passed by, Zai Sheng might really be willing to nurture Wei Wei and give him a way out. One should always dream. What if it became real? If Wei Wei became the chief? Even if he was just a regiment commander, he was still a chief's father. He would still reach the same goal albeit by different means. However, Zai Sheng was going to get married now. His match was Jiao Nan, a woman whom he couldn't even fancy. Wei De was very dissatisfied. On what basis did Zai Sheng refuse to give him, the brother-in-law, face because of Jiao Nan? Back then, he didn't allow Zai Hua to marry him. Until today, he had never officially addressed him as brother-in-law once. Wei De, don't think so highly of yourself. Zai Sheng looked coldly at Wei De. If he didn't give Wei De a lesson, Wei De might just go crazy soon. Sure, since you're so unhappy staying here, I shan't keep you any longer. You drove here yourself, so you can drive away now. I've said it before. You don't have to worry about Jia and Zai Hua. It wasn't easy for the family to be reunited. Zai Sheng really didn't want to see Wei De, an unwelcomed person, on such a joyous and festive day like the New Year. Furthermore, even if nobody took notice of Wei De, he had to just jump out and make his presence known, treating himself like a master of the Zai family. Zai Sheng really couldn't tolerate this. Wei De glared at him. You're asking me to leave at this time. Night fell quickly in winter. It was dinner time now. The sky outside was very dark and the trip from Qingshui town to Pingcheng would take 1 to 2 hours. Upon thinking that Zai Sheng wanted to chase his own brother-in-law away for an outsider like Xiao Nan, Wei De really wanted to punch Zai Sheng in the face. Favoring an outsider instead of someone on his own side. He really couldn't differentiate between his family and the outsider who should be chased away. Wei De was always bad-tempered. Since he was chased away, how would he still be thick-skinned enough to stay? Even if he were to stay, Zai Sheng had to apologize to him, and the Zai family had to force him to stay. Otherwise, not only would he lose face in front of Jiao Nan and Xiao Su, but he would also no longer be able to raise his head in front of them in the future. Okay, you want me to leave, right? I will. However, Zai Hua is my wife and Jia is my daughter. We are celebrating the new year now. Of course we have to do so as a family. Since you can't tell who is part of your family and who is an outsider, I can. I'll bring both my wife and my daughter away, Wei De said stubbornly. This sentence made Jiao Nan laugh. You really have a backbone. Your backing and confidence come from your wife and daughter. Since you know that they are your support in the Zai family, why didn't you treat them better? To drink the ocean and then call it salty is really apt in describing people like you. How shameless! If he had the ability, he shouldn't pull others down. He could leave by himself, and they'd see who would make him stay. What does that have to do with you? Even if Jiao Nan had said the truth, Wei De would definitely not admit it. His face turned red and he walked from Xiao Su's side. Action speaks louder than words, right? He didn't believe that if he brought Zai Hua and Jia away, the Zai family wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Those two elders without any grandchildren would definitely feel upset. Who asked them to make him feel uncomfortable? He wouldn't let these people lead a comfortable life either. It was the new year, but they wanted him to feel terrible, right? Then, all of them would just feel terrible together and hurt each other. Seeing that Wei De was headed toward Jia's room, Jiao Nan felt anxious. Jia was just a child. She definitely wouldn't dare to oppose her biological father or have the ability to oppose. Wei De had this bad habit of always picking the weak ones to bully. She obviously knew that Wei De did something wrong to Zai Hua and Jia and kept Wei a secret from them. Not only was Jiao Nan unable to tell the mother and daughter pair about this now, but she also had to watch Wei De bullying them on account that he was their husband and father. Jiao Nan was extremely angry. Zai Sheng patted the back of Jiao Nan's hand. Don't be angry. It's not worth it. You have to remember that no one from the Zai family is easy to bully. Zai Hua asked for it herself in the past. If she doesn't stand up for herself today, even if Wei De won't hit her, I will. Anyway, when they were young, they had often fought. Forget it, both of you. Do you really treat Sister Zai Hua as a man? A woman has her own thoughts. There are times your Zai family's tough tactics wouldn't work too. Rather than you fighting with Sister Zai Hua, why don't we get Auntie Miao to have a good chat with Sister Zai Hua? Not everything could be resolved with fists. When Sister Zai Hua married Wei De, Old Master Zai was still alive. Old Master Zai had disagreed with their marriage, but Zai Hua still went ahead to marry him. She didn't believe that back then, Zai Sheng and Sister Zai Hua didn't engage in the old ways to resolve this problem. In the end, Sister Zai Hua had suffered a beating, but she went ahead to get married anyway. Perhaps when she first wanted to marry Wei De, Sister Zai Hua's heart was set at 80%, but after that beating, she had 100% of determination. Seeing that Jiao Nan didn't refute and that she understood the Zai family's situation so clearly, Zai Sheng's doubts came to mind again. It was just the same as before. Zai Sheng still firmly believed that Jiao Nan didn't bear any bad intentions toward the Zai family. Perhaps this was a manifestation of his fate with Jiao Nan. Ever since he was young, Zai Sheng had never believed in fate. After over 40 years, he came to believe in the existence of fate. Upon thinking of this, Zai Sheng thought that he was ridiculous as well. Leave the dishes to Xiao Su and Xiao Zhao. Mom and Dad are waiting outside for us to have a meal. You don't have to worry about Wei Dai. It's time for Zai Hua to sober up. Today, he believed that Zai Hua could stand up for herself. Qiao Nan sighed anxiously and agreed with Zai Sheng. It wasn't good for others to intervene in the affairs of a couple. Wait a minute. That's your dad and mom. Zai Sheng had said it strangely. It was as if the both of them shared the same parents. Yes, my dad and my mom. They are both mine. Zai Sheng admitted it readily. However, in Qiao Nan's opinion, he might as well not admit it. Didn't he see Xiao Su and Xiao Zhao shrinking their necks and laughing? It sounded as if Zai Sheng was just coaxing her unreasonable self. The problem was that the two of them were obviously not in that kind of relationship. That was cheating. Zai Yaowai and Miaojing saw Qiao Nan walking over with their son. Miaojing asked, "Where's Hua Hua and Jia?" As for the son-in-law, Wei Dai, Miaojing wasn't willing to give him face, let alone mention his name. Chapter 1856, Aunt was great. He had used sweet talk to marry her daughter but not treat her well. He also let her granddaughter suffer so many grievances and even wanted to put a child who had nothing to do with the Zai family into the Zai family. Did he think that no one knew what he was trying to do? Every time she thought of how Wei De treated a fatherless nephew better than his biological daughter, Miaojing became angry. I asked Wei De to go back to celebrate the new year. Zai Sheng didn't explain much but only provided a statement. Zai Yaowai's eyes narrowed. That's good as well. They always celebrate with their Wei family every year. They couldn't possibly break the Wei family's habit just because Miao Miao and I are back. Zai Yaowai also felt that it wasn't comfortable to have Wei De around when their family was celebrating the new year. It was good that Wei De left. Now, only the real family was left. His daughter was already in her teens, but Wei De's image in the hearts of the Zai family was still so unbearable. This showed how much of a failure Wei De was as a person. It had been over 10 years, but he never tried to change his image in the hearts of the Zai family. Instead, as time went by, the Zai family's impression of him kept deteriorating. Qiao Nan looked at Zai Sheng. Indeed, Brother Zai had asked Wei De to go back. However, Wei De said that he would leave together with his wife and Jia. Was Brother Zai not going to share this with the old chief and Auntie Miao? In the event Sister Zai Hua couldn't stand up for herself and stop Wei De from taking Jia away, how was Brother Zai going to answer to the two elders then? Miaojing could not understand the look in Qiao Nan's eyes and only thought that Qiao Nan was also interested in their son and was flirting with him. Zai Hua, whose face was flushed with fury, pulled Jia over for a meal. Dad, Mom, why aren't you eating yet? Were you waiting for me and Jia? There's no need to. Grandpa, Grandma, Uncle, Aunt Jiao. Jia greeted everyone sensibly. Now, Jia already knew that Qiao Nan was really her uncle's match. However, before that was confirmed, she couldn't address her as aunt casually. Upon thinking that Qiao Nan was family, it didn't seem so embarrassing for her to have cried in Qiao Nan's arms. Qiao Nan exhaled when she saw Jia. Sister Zai Hua, Jia, both of you sit here. Qiao Nan let Zai Hua and Jia sit next to Miaojing. There was no doubt that the empty seat next to Miaojing was for the only child in this family, Jia. Jia, if there's anything you would like to eat, remember to tell me. We're still in time to buy some ingredients. You can just have a simple meal today first. Qiao Nan felt heartache when she saw Jia. In her dreams, Xiao Bao was a silly and sweet child when he was young. Although his mom was always in the army, Tiandong, the father, always took care of Xiao Bao. The two elders from the Tian family had doted on Xiao Bao like he was an ancestor. Furthermore, Xiao Bao had 3 older brothers and a sister to play with since he was young, unlike Jia. When she compared Xiao Bao's silly and sweet look with Jia's face now, Xiao Nan felt sour in her heart and didn't know what she should say. "Thank you, Aunt Xiao." Jia smiled sweetly. At her grandma's house, only her mom would care about what she liked to eat. Whereas her grandma would always only prepare the dishes Wei Wei liked to eat during reunion dinner. Jia would throw tantrums initially. However, after being lectured by Wei Dai, Jia no longer kicked up a fuss. Wei Dai said that since they were celebrating the new year, she shouldn't learn from her mom and cause everyone to be unhappy because of her temper and stubbornness. If there was a dish she liked, she should eat more of it. If there wasn't any, she should eat less. If she still felt hungry after the meal, she could get her mom to prepare something for her. If she caused her grandpa and grandma to be unhappy, then she was being unfilial. Since Wei Dai had already lectured her so, what else could Jia say? She could only not say anything. When asked about her favorite dishes today, Jia felt warm in her heart. It could be said that she received similar treatment in her maternal grandma's house now. Try the taste. How do you find it? Is it too salty or bland? Or do you prefer something sweeter or spicier? Jia tasted the dishes seriously. She turned her head and smiled at Xiao Nan. It's not too bland or salty. The taste is just right. These dishes are delicious and I love them. Aunt Xiao, you're really formidable. How did you know my taste? Jia wasn't saying this out of politeness. Indeed, there were a few dishes she liked to eat on the table. The taste was similar to her preference as well. This aunt was really too competent. Jia silently threw Zai Shang a look of appreciation. She felt that the aunt her uncle found was really great. It was all thanks to her uncle that she had such treatment. When would her uncle start working harder so that she could address Xiao Nan as her aunt instead of Aunt Xiao? Seeing that Jia had misunderstood, Zai Yai didn't bother to explain and only threw Jia a look that signaled soon. At this time, Zai Shang acknowledged one of Wei Dai's strengths. Wei Dai wasn't good at anything except for having Jia as a daughter. Compared to Wei Dai, Jia, the niece, was much more pleasing to the eye. It's good that you like it. Xiao Nan felt a little guilty. She had only known about Jia's existence recently. How could she have understood her taste? It was just that in her dream, she had brought Xiao Bao up and thus understood Xiao Bao's preference. Xiao Nan had purely tried to make some dishes that Xiao Bao liked. Perhaps it was because Zai Hua was the mother of both children. Even if Jia's and Xiao Bao's preferences for food weren't 100% similar, they were at least more than 50% similar. Seeing this situation, Xiao Nan didn't know if she should feel happy or sad. Xiao Bao was Xiao Bao. Jia was Jia. Both of them were different and independent of each other. She shouldn't think of Xiao Bao whenever she saw Jia. One had to know that they had the same mother but different fathers. She also didn't know where Tiandong was now. As she recalled the young Zai Hua's joking words of marrying only when she was 30 years old and Tiandong's stubbornness, Xiao Nan felt tired in her heart and pinched her nose bridge. If this was real as well, then there was really a great marriage that was missed in vain due to a childhood joke and stubbornness. Aunt Xiao, what's wrong? Are you not feeling well? Was Aunt Xiao tired from cooking all those dishes for her? On the way there, Zai Hua had given her daughter a heads up that the dishes today were all prepared by Xiao Nan. She was, after all, her future aunt. In any case, Zai Hua asked Jia to give Xiao Nan face. Jia was already mentally prepared to eat a few more mouthfuls even if she didn't like the food so that she could win more impression points for her uncle. Of course, Jia was quite satisfied with the final taste of the dishes. Chapter 1857, Angry Face. She didn't need to pretend about those dishes at all. Based on the taste, she would give a score of 99, if not 100. Upon seeing that Xiao Nan was feeling unwell, Jia, who loved Xiao Nan's dishes a lot, became nervous. What if her future aunt became tired from cooking dishes for her? She would feel very embarrassed. No, it should be because of the wind just now. Nothing's wrong. Xiao Nan waved her hands. She didn't expect a small action of hers to attract so many people's attention. The weather's cold now. Let's eat quickly. If the dishes turn cold, they wouldn't taste good anymore. Yes, everyone, let's eat. Miao Jing gave Xiao Nan face and agreed with her words. Jia likes to eat this, right? Here. Eat more so that you can gain some meat. Jia, we can't learn from the young ladies outside. Why lose weight? A girl should have some meat on her body to look good. Most importantly, she would be in good health. Thanks, Grandma. Grandma, eat more too. At this moment in her maternal grandma's house, Jia felt that she was the happiest child in the world. It turned out that not only her mother treated her well. In reality, there were a lot of relatives in her maternal grandma's house who treated her as their precious child, doting on and pampering her. She was also a princess at home. As soon as the meal started, the atmosphere of the Zai family became warmer again. It was as if the people around the table were a real family and there were no outsiders at all. The Zai family ate happily. However, Wei Dai, who was chased away, was black-faced throughout the journey. He drove back to his home, where his parents, sister and nephew were. Oh, it's almost 9. Dai, why are you back at this timing? Didn't you say that you would be celebrating the new year with your in-laws? There were 2 days to celebrate the new year, but Ada came back at this timing. Could it be that he returned to see her as he was afraid she would miss him dearly? As she thought of this, Mother Wei became extremely touched. Ada, isn't it just a few days? You usually stay in the army every day. Even if I miss you, I have gotten through it. Don't be like this in the future. It's unsafe and cold to drive in the middle of the night. Don't mention this. Wei Dai felt unlucky. Mom, is there anything to eat at home? I'm hungry. Prepare more food for me. What? You haven't eaten yet? Wait for a while. I'll prepare some dishes for you. Mother Wei turned around and pulled Wei Xiaomei into the kitchen to prepare food for Wei Dai. It was New Year's Eve, so there were a lot of ingredients at home. The ready-made dishes were prepared quickly for Wei Dai. Dai, hurry up and eat. Don't hurt your stomach. Wei Dai gobbled his food until his belly showed. He put down his chopsticks and said, Mom, this is too infuriating. The old couple from the Zai family is back and Zai felt that she has a strong backing. Mom, you're right. There's no need to treat women well. They are all just wretches. I should be fiercer. I compromised and let her return to her family to celebrate the new year. She's about to forget that she's no longer a daughter of the Zai family but a daughter-in-law of the Wei family. He had wanted to pull Zai and Jia back to scare Zai Sheng. Who knew that Zai didn't cooperate and even said that Zai Sheng did right since he went overboard first. Zai Sheng's mind was unclear and he was falling head over heels for Xiao Nan. Zai Sheng helped put in a good word for Xiao Nan and ostracized him, the brother-in-law. They were both men, so he could still understand this. However, who was Zai Hua? Zai Hua was his wife. No matter what happened under what circumstances, Zai Hua should stand by his side unconditionally and help him. Who knew that Zai Hua would favor an outsider like Xiao Nan and not help her husband? When she knew that Zai Sheng had chased him away, not only was Zai Hua not angry, but she even agreed with Zai Sheng and let him go. In reality, Wei Dai wasn't the kind of person to give up so easily. Of course, the best result was that Zai Sheng apologized to him and begged him to stay. Otherwise, he was going to leave together with his wife and daughter and return to the Wei family. He wanted the old couple from the Zai family to lose the rare chance of reuniting with their granddaughter. Who asked them not to give birth to a good son? After giving birth to a son, they didn't discipline him properly, and he ended up being so rude to him, the brother-in-law. Serves them right for not having the joy to interact with their family. He wanted them to pay the price because of their son, Zai Sheng. Zai Hua was an adult and had the right to choose her own behavior. However, Jia was still young. Even if he couldn't bring Zai Hua away, he wanted to bring the daughter whom he didn't place much importance on back. He gathered that compared to Zai Hua, the daughter, the old couple from the Zai family cherished Jia, the granddaughter, more. In short, if someone made him feel uncomfortable, he was going to leave the Zai family with no chance to celebrate the new year properly. Weida always had the final say in the Wei family. Nobody dared to oppose his words and everyone would just implement what he said. It was these days that made Weida forget what kind of wife he had married and what type of situation his in-laws were in. Seeing that Weida was using force on his daughter to pull her away and was even hurting her with malicious words, Zai Hua became furious. In the past, Weida had indeed valued Wei Wei, the nephew, more. However, on the surface, he was still alright toward Jia. As such, Zai Hua didn't throw a temper at Weida. She couldn't possibly say that she hoped Weida would treat their daughter better. If she really said so, Weida would just say that Jia was a daughter and not a son and that he was a father. When his daughter grew up, it wouldn't be too appropriate for him to get too close to Jia. As such, she shouldn't always compare Jia with Wei Wei. In the past, Zai Hua had tolerated Weida's words. However, today, Zai Hua could no longer tolerate his words and actions. Generally, women were in a weaker position if they wanted to use violence on men as they couldn't win in terms of strength. However, who was Zai Hua? When Zai Hua was in the army, she was a female officer. She was someone who could knock down 100 recruits. Weida had successfully been promoted from a recruit. After he became a company commander, he was negligent in training and only thought of how much further he could climb up the ranks. Zai Hua was different. After Zai Hua retired from the army, she missed the army more and more while at home. Weida didn't spend a lot of time at home. Coupled with the fact that Jia was attending school after she grew up, Zai Hua's time at home alone became particularly long. But no one knew that Zai Hua had been doing physical training. When couples lay a hand on each other, the wife would normally be subjected to domestic violence as her strength couldn't be compared to the husband's. However, once Weida made a move, Zai Hua successfully pressed Weida down within 3 moves. Chapter 1858, Stop It! Jia, who had seen her parents fighting for the first time, was stunned. Before she could be afraid, her mom had won against her dad. Her dad was like a tortoise when her mom pressed him down such that his face was stuck to the cold wall. Weida, let me tell you. Don't think that 10 years are enough for your Wei family to wear down my temper. I just felt that we're a family and thus didn't want to mind it too much. Leading a good life is more important. If you continue to be this overboard, I don't mind letting you think of how I was already a deputy battalion commander before I retired. She was different from Weida. Weida was promoted to company commander due to his relationship with Zai Hua. When Zai Hua was in the army, she had relied on her actual strength and military merits to get promoted. One was superior in strength while the other wasn't worthy of his name. When the two of them fought, there was no suspense as to who would win, all right? Zai Hua, good for you. He had thrown his face in front of Jiaonan previously. Who knew that at this time, he fell in front of his own daughter? They were about to celebrate the new year. Weida almost had the illusion that everyone in the world was against him and that he could no longer lead a good life. Zai Hua loosened her grip on Weida's hands and feet and adjusted her clothes. Of course. Everyone in the Zai family is good. Weida, I finally understand why you only nag about wanting to be a regiment commander every day in front of me, but there's no improvement in your performance in the army. It was easy to tell if one was an expert when they made a move. Zai Hua herself was an outstanding soldier to begin with. Even if she had retired for more than 10 years, some situations would never change. Zai Hua knew about this all along. Judging from the situation just now, to be honest, Zai Hua no longer lamented that Weida's fortune wasn't good. She was no longer anxious that he had no opportunity to showcase his talent. Regiment commander? What a joke! Whoever dared to make Wada a regiment commander was just treating the entire army as a joke. Even the position of a company commander was too high for Wada, let alone a regiment commander. If Wada was given the position of a platoon leader, it was definitely not because of his capabilities but the number of years he had spent in the army. When Wada annoyed her and Mother Wei nagged her in the past, Zihua had occasional hesitations if she should help Wada again. Even if she didn't follow the path of the Zai family, she still had some connections and could help him achieve his goal. At this time, the idea had completely disappeared from Zihua's heart. It was nothing to help Wada. However, she had to be responsible to the soldiers under Wada. She suspected that the soldiers wouldn't have the potential to develop themselves if they had Wada as an officer. If all the good seedlings were destroyed by Wada, then she would be doing something sorry to the party, the country, the people, and those soldiers who loved the army. Okay, are you going to leave, or do you want to continue to stay? If he stayed, she would certainly give him face. On the contrary, if Wada wanted to leave, she wasn't going to make him stay, lest everyone feel uncomfortable. The premise was that if Wada wanted to leave, he would be the only one leaving. Initially, Zihua wanted to let Jiajia choose. Jiajia was a teen now and had the right to choose. It was just that when she saw Wada pulling Jiajia by force to leave, it was obvious that Jiajia was reluctant but she didn't dare to resist Wada out of filial piety. This made Zihua furious. If she had been like Jiajia when she was young, she wouldn't have married Wada and she wouldn't have Jiajia as a daughter now. Her daughter's performance made Zihua realize that she was too pampered by her family when she was still a daughter in the Zai family, that she was so bad-tempered now. On the contrary, no one favored and pampered Jiajia aside from her, the mother. As such, Jiajia became more sensible and filial but also more sensitive. She wasn't sure how other children became sensible. In her opinion, Jiajia wasn't born to be sensible. She and Wada didn't have this excellent gene to pass to Jiajia. Zihua felt heartache when she knew that circumstances had shaped Jiajia to be this sensible. It's fine that she didn't get to lead the life as guaranteed before her marriage with Wada after marrying him. In the end, her daughter led a life that was even worse than hers when she was young. So what's the point of her holding on for so many years? She even felt that she had suffered so many grievances all these years. Was everything purely her own doing? It was precisely because of this that when Xiaonan saw Zihua, she could obviously feel the anger and dissatisfaction from Zihua. At this time, Wada, who had returned home, shared what had happened with Zihua. Mother Wei was so angry that her eyes were about to spit fire. I asked you to take care of her a long time ago, but you just refused to listen. See? Now, she even dares to climb above your head. That woman is old and bad-tempered. She and her family are white-eyed wolves who don't know how to be grateful. What sin has our Wei family committed to have such a daughter-in-law? Look how I'll take care of her when she returns home. Mother Wei knew that she was Zihua's mother-in-law. No matter how she argued with her, Zihua could only respect her and not do anything. Otherwise, Zihua would just be waiting for everyone to curse and swear at her. However, her son couldn't do this. Both of them were equals. Once they started a fight, her son would be on the losing end. Ade, listen to me this time around. I'll help you manage your wife. Women really couldn't be pampered. It's the New Year's Eve. Can you mother and son pair just stop? Mother Wei kept saying how she was going to take care of Zihua and how she was going to punish Jiajia to make Zihua feel terrible. She said that only if she cut Zihua's flesh would Zihua feel the pain and be afraid. Upon hearing how ruthless his partner was and how she was going to lay a hand on their granddaughter, Father Wei became angry and used an ashtray to hit Mother Wei's body hard. Mother Wei, who was beaten, raised her eyebrows. Who am I doing this for? It's all for Ade. Is Ade your son or Zihua your daughter? Wretched old man! Don't be so foolish. Father Wei laughed coldly and looked at Wei Di. It's because I still treat him as a son that I disallow you to do so. Have you been leading such a good life that you became confused? Don't feel afraid only when there's no turning back. If they really reached that stage, his wife would think that she had been helping their son, but their son would blame his wife for ruining his home and future. What do you mean? Mother Wei wasn't willing to take this lying down. Zihua has stepped on Ada now. You're still helping other people's daughter. Chapter 1859, Pay more attention. It was good to give birth to a son belonging to their own family. A daughter-in-law was someone else's daughter. If someone dared to bully her son, she would go all out with that person. Father Wei knocked on the long-stemmed Chinese pipe and glanced at Wei Xiaomei, who was silently standing next to Wei De and taking care of him. Father Wei knew that this pair of siblings was fooling around together again. His son was flirtatious to begin with. If not for the Xi family's identity and that Wei De was afraid of his vulnerability being caught, he would have been together with Wei Xiaomei again. Who asked Wei Xiaomei to be his sister in name? Nobody would find it strange if he spent a lot of time at his parents' house. Besides, nobody would expect that Wei De wasn't accompanying his parents at home but was sleeping with his sister. The Wei De now was enjoying life with two wives. If the Xi family knows about Ada and Xiaomei, who do you think will lose out in the end? Upon thinking of Wei Xiaomei and Wei Wei, Father Wei felt guilty. He never came into contact with his daughter-in-law for two reasons, the first being his natural awe and respect for soldiers and the second being Wei Xiaomei's and Wei Wei's relationship. As he liked his grandson, Father Wei pretended to be deaf and mute and let Wei De and Mother Wei bully Zihua. However, he always remembered that his family did something sorry to Zihua, their daughter-in-law. Don't mention this. Wei De turned his face. This topic was the most untouchable. Even if it was his biological father who had said this, Wei De similarly felt frightened. Without mentioning it for years, Wei De had chosen to selectively forget this matter. Even if he would be sleeping with Wei Xiaomei now that he was back, he never took the initiative to retrieve the memories of Wei Xiaomei being his wife once. They could sleep with each other. However, in name, Wei Xiaomei was just his sister. You old man! You obviously know that Ada doesn't like anyone mentioning this. Only our family knows about this matter. No one else does, and it's impossible for the Xi family to find out. Furthermore, this happened before Ada met and married Zihua. On what basis should the Xi family blame Ada? Ada wasn't to be blamed for this. It was just that Zihua had appeared later. Father Wei put the pipe aside. We don't know yet if there will be a day someone finds out about this. Anyway, the morals my elders taught me aren't like that. Wife, stop being so stubborn. Since you really think that it's okay for the incident between Ada and Xiaomei to happen before Zihua came into the picture, do you dare to tell Zihua about it? If you dare not to, Ada wouldn't dare to either. The Xi family wouldn't be willing to suffer this loss. Yes, indeed, this happened before the two of them knew each other. However, with this premise, neither the Xi family nor Zihua would have accepted Wei De as a person. So what if Zihua was a little older? How many women would be willing to marry a man who was married once and had a child in their first marriage? Mother Wei became speechless at Father Wei's words. Whose father are you? Who are you helping? If you continue to be like this, be careful that Ada wouldn't treat you well in the future. Their son wouldn't be filial to him since he kept saying words that were against their son. Father Wei looked at the silent Ada as well as Wei Xiaomei, who had silently distanced herself from Wei De. I'm afraid that if I didn't say these words, all of you would become complacent and forget what you have done. It's better not to burn bridges. Now, you're a mother-in-law who picks on Zihua and treats Jia badly. Let me ask you. If anything happens in the future and Zihua wants to get a divorce, have you thought of what to do? Do you really think that after giving birth to Jia, Zihua would stick around the Wei family and that it would be impossible for her to leave Ada? Who gave you such confidence? This was the matter Father Wei was most anxious, worried, and afraid about. He never felt that his daughter-in-law wouldn't dare to divorce his son because of Jiejia, their daughter. With the Zai family around, Zihua had nothing to worry about or fear. No, Jiejia wouldn't wish for Ada to divorce her mom. Mother Wei didn't sound as confident as before. Father Wei drank a sip of water. Speaking of Jiejia, both you and Ada shouldn't be that confident. Did you think about how you treated her? Zihua and Jiejia might seem simple-minded and usually don't think too much, but don't the two of you feel that your usual practices are too obvious? Jiejia is willing to care about you, the grandma, and you, the father, because she doesn't know about your relationship with Xiao Wei yet. I feel that this child's temper is similar to her mom's. If she really knows what happened at home, Jiejia might not be a child who's that easy to speak to. Dad, you're exaggerating. Jiejia is my daughter. If her heart is not with me, who else could it be with? Weida wasn't willing to acknowledge Father Wei's words. The reason why he was so confident to be fierce towards Zihua was because of Jiejia, their daughter. He knew that a lot of women would choose to suffer in silence in the face of grievances for the sake of their children. Do you only know that Jiejia is your daughter after realizing that you have to rely on her to keep Zihua as your wife? Why didn't I see you treat Jiejia well usually? You and your mom always treat it as if there's only a child, Xiao Wei, in the family. Have you thought about how Jiejia would feel if she saw this? Would she be unhappy? Would she throw tantrums? She's already in her teens. She knows how to be upset as well. Toward the end, Father Wei wasn't willing to continue saying anything. In short, ever since his son married Zihua and was successfully promoted to platoon leader and company commander, this mother and son pair started having crazy thoughts. They really thought that they were the emperor and that everyone beneath them would just have to follow what they said. In this world, how could there be so many good things that they could take for granted? Dad, what exactly are you trying to say? Although Weida was unhappy, he knew that his dad made sense. Indeed, Zihua had suffered a lot of grievances, and Jiejia was growing up. Upon seeing Zihua's temper improve compared to before they got married, he did become too smug. No matter how much he disliked Zihua's toughness and how she favored outsiders, he never thought of separating from her and getting a divorce. If they really got to that stage, not only would divorce not make Zihua succumb but also kill his own future. What I mean is very simple. Pay more attention. It was rare that his son was finally listening to his words. In the future, you, and especially your mom, should think twice for everything that is being said and done. When you feel that Zihua is no longer of use to our family and it doesn't matter if Zihua leaves our family or not, I wouldn't care what trouble you create for her. I won't say a single word about it. Chapter 1860, Don't be happy too early. On the contrary, you have to remember that our family can't do without Zihua. Treat Zihua and Jiejia better in the future. For us, there's still Xiao Wei. However, in Zihua's heart, she only has Jiejia. They were mothers. Why couldn't they understand the mindset of a mother? One could treat oneself badly. However, if one treated one's own child badly, every mother in the world would feel angry. Women might not get a divorce for the sake of their children. However, it was possible for them to get a divorce for their children as well. Her son agreed with what Father Wei said and no longer supported her words like before. What else could Mother Wei do? She could ignore Father Wei, but she couldn't ignore her son's emotions and thoughts. So what you're saying is that after Zihua returns, not only can I not help our son, but I must also please that old woman Zihua and treat the money-losing daughter Jiejia well. Just thinking about it made Mother Wei feel uncomfortable all over, let alone doing it. She had a grandson. Why should she treat the money-losing granddaughter well instead of her grandson? Father Wei didn't reply to Mother Wei. He knew that Mother Wei would not listen to anyone else's words but their son's. As such, he only had to persuade their son and he would take care of Mother Wei. Ade, I didn't mean to deliberately say bad things on such a festive day. You were a person who had survived step by step. Before you married Zihua, how cautious were you? You have to understand my ultimate goal is not to make you treat Zihua and Jiajia well. I just don't want any accident that will cost you your life goals to happen. We can't go too overboard for certain things. Ade, if you destroy your relationship, have you thought of what else you have in your hands to keep Zihua around? Waiter rubbed his face and stood up. Dad, Mom, I'll go to the washroom to wash my face. Wait for me. Don't be anxious. I'll get you some warm water. Mother Wei stood up and wanted to serve her son. Waiter shook his head and said, "It's fine. I only want to use cold water to wash my face." Only then could he have some peace and quiet. Wei Xiaomei stood anxiously, not daring to sit. She always felt that Father Wei knew that these were her thoughts. Father Wei looked at the daughter she had raised since young. "Xiaomei, don't be afraid. Find a stool and take a seat. I don't have any bad intentions. I just want to remind you that we shouldn't think that no one knows what happens in one's own home. One can never be too careful. If Zihua finds out about this, what should we do? Have you thought about this?" If Zihua knew about Xiao Wei's true identity, they were worried that Zihua would definitely not accept it and that she would separate from Wei De. Moreover, if Zihua knew that after marrying Wei De for so many years, Wei Xiaomei, who came over to live together with them, had fooled around with Wei De and in the house that she paid for, how would Zihua feel? "You were brought up by our Wei family. Xiaomei, it could be said that our Wei family didn't let you down. Don't hurt Ada because of your little thoughts. You have to know that if that accident really happens, you will not only hurt Ada in the end but also Wei Wei." The Zai family had promoted Ada. The Zai family is also absolutely capable of pulling Ada down. Without Ada, what are you and Xiao Wei left with? Some things had to be restrained after knowing that it was all thanks to Zihua. Wasn't it just a man? When Ada married Zihua, not only did Xiao Mei lose a man by her side, but her son was also fetched away. During the first 3 to 4 years, Xiao Mei was pretty wise. She stayed quiet and didn't kick up a fuss. When she thought of her son, she never said anything about wanting to fetch him back or raise him by her side. It was a pity that she started to become jealous at this age. Father Wei couldn't comprehend Wei Xiaomei's change. This was the rhythm of going bad to worst. Xiaomei is Ada's wife to begin with. They should be together. Why should she pay attention? Mother Wei said. She wasn't helping Wei Xiaomei but her own son. "I haven't said anything about Zihua, that old woman, being older than Xiaomei. Her temper is worse than Xiaomei's as well. She doesn't look like a wife at all. She doesn't serve Ada well, yet she refuses to let someone else do the job for her." Father Wei glared at her. "Sure, if you want to say it that way, you can treat whatever I said just now as nonsense. I didn't say a single word, so you don't have to remember anything either. Don't find me if anything happens in the future. I've already tried my best." He was already trying his best to save everything before anything happened. Who knew that the woman he married didn't have any brains and still dared to be so barbaric? Wei De, who had finished washing his face with cold water, was on Father Wei's side this time around. "Dad, don't be angry. I've thought about it. You're right. Actually, ever since Zihua married me, her temper has improved. However, Zihua is still Zihua. If she knows about me and Xiaomei, regardless of whether it was in the past or now, Zihua would never forgive me and would definitely get a divorce. Zihua is not alone. She still has the Zai family as backing. The Zai family wasn't happy that she married me back then. I'm sure they would be more than happy now if Zihua wants a divorce. Once the Zai family interferes in this matter, Zihua and I would definitely be getting a divorce. It would be useless even if we put Jiajia in the picture then." His father was right. He couldn't leave Zihua. Even if he really completed his life goal and became a regiment commander, he similarly couldn't divorce Zihua. It wasn't easy to climb up the ranks. He had to continue to be in that position until Wei Wei grew up and was qualified to take his position. Before that, he couldn't lose Zihua. Otherwise, regardless of how he climbed up to the position of a regiment commander, he would definitely fall from it within 3 years. In this lifetime until death, my wife can only be Zihua alone. Otherwise, all my hard work and efforts over the years would be in vain. Wei Wei wouldn't have a bright future either. For himself, his son, and his family, he had to hold on to Zihua tightly. Only then did Father Wei feel better in his heart. Ade, it's good that you understand. All these years, you and your mom were too overboard. I knew that the both of you wouldn't listen to me no matter what I said before. Today is quite a good opportunity. Ade, think about it. Before you married Zihua back then, what thoughts and attitude did you have toward her? It doesn't mean that everything would be going well after you married her. After marriage, there's still the possibility of a divorce.